Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Over the last 1 week, 2 states in Nigeria have had women lead protests because of the rising cost of living. Now, these protests have been executed without the prompting of any labor union. In the last few years, civil disobedience has been at the behest of civil society organizations such as the TUC and the NLC, who consider it their duty to speak for Nigerians. However, these organizations have oftentimes been criticized for not representing the entirety of the Nigerian people. This morning, we examine the question of whether Nigeria is starting to move away from the direction of civil society organizations in speaking about issues to power. And we are joined by legal practitioner Justice Ojieno to shed more light on this phenomenon. Mr. Ojieno, good morning and thank you for joining us on the conversation.
Good morning to you and good morning to our listeners all across the world.
Right, sir. To begin, Mr. Ojieno, we've seen in the last couple of days protests in Niger State as well as Kano that have been led by women. And these protests have one common thread. They are both talking about the rising cost of living. I wonder if you can speak to how serious it is when we see a part of the Nigerian society that's traditionally quiet get out onto the streets to speak about the issues that affect them.
For me, I feel that it's a matter of necessity, and as we say, necessity is the mother of invention, and that's why it's supposed to be, as our previous president said, in the kitchen are the ones that are leading the protest. Of course, it's not new to the Nigerian system. We remember the Aba Women's Riot of 1929. When it looked like the men of society are feeling that it may be dangerous for them to be able to get a critical mass in order to be able to pass a particular message to the government. Quite unfortunate that it has gotten to this. It's a result of the frustration of the critical mass of the people. And I find it very, 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 very painful because it looks like the nation, especially as far as the economy is, and of course security is, in a free fall. And I feel that it is the government or the day cannot keep playing the ostrich while burying the tiny head of the ostrich and exposing its entire body and pretending that nothing serious is happening and blaming it on the opposition.
So to delve a little further into this, it's as you've rightly pointed out, it's not alien to Nigeria's history. We've seen the Aba women's movement that happened in pre-independence Nigeria. But this is probably one of the first few times that we are seeing women come out and protest against issues, not just in one state, but in another as well. I wonder if we are seeing a shift in how Nigerians express their displeasure to those in authority. Are we going to see more movements that step away from organized labor speaking for the Nigerian people to see people actually speaking up for themselves because of common issues that bind them?
Definitely. I feel that is now the way to go. I think that has now come to stay. But what we should always pray for with this effect is that it doesn't degenerate, because we must remember that this is not as organized labor. With organized labor, you can just call the president of the various labor unions and executive committee members. You can give a court order against them, an injunction can come against them, barring them. But with this one that is practically a free for all, the challenge we may have is enforcing rule of law, and the only way may now be for the armed forces or the police to be put on the streets to stop people from expressing their rights to freedom of expression as protected by Section 39 of our Constitution, and of course of association as provided by Section 40. So that for me may be, but it has come to stay, and it is high time for the government to come out in full force to ensure that the economy is put in place, the security is put in place, Otherwise, this practically has come to stay. The Nigerians will come out for themselves, and I pray that we don't fall also into the situation of, I think, the Arab Springs in Egypt, where a particular protester, because his life has been really made bad by the government of the day, light up himself, and of course that snowballed into what we saw in 2011, 2012, and these various uprisings in the Middle East and in the Horn of Africa. I pray that doesn't end up being the situation in Nigeria, because we have a situation where a lot of Nigerians are taking their own lives, and they are not just taking their own lives because life is generally. They say specifically that they are taking their lives because of the economy. And with women, it hits closest to home. It is the women that put food. If the food, various food types are not in the kitchen, so what are they largely doing in the kitchen? They will come out to protest. So that is why I feel that it is a clarion call for the government of the day to do its best and not blame everything on the opposition. This is more organic than it has been before. It is not the opposition. This is not politics. This is not politics at all. Everybody is feeling the brunt. So this is high time for them to come out and do the needful.
Mr. Ojieno, thank you very much for speaking with us this morning. Our guest on the conversation is Mr. Justice Ojieno. He is a legal practitioner, and he joined us this morning to speak on the phenomenon that has seen Nigerian women leave their homes to protest about the rising cost of living. The conversation continues in just a moment as we speak with the National President of the Food and Beverage Senior Staff Association, Mr. Jimoh Oyibo, on a developing situation. Do stay with us.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Continuing the conversation this morning, the Food, Beverage and Tobacco Senior Staff Association and the National Union of Food, Beverages and Tobacco Employees went on a peaceful protest yesterday in response to the National Food Drug Law Administration, in response to NAFDAC's drive to phase out the production and distribution of alcoholic beverages in sachets and PET bottles. Now, the association claims that this ban will send 500,000 Nigerians directly into unemployment. Our guest this morning is the National President of the Food and Beverage Senior Staff Association, Mr. Jimoh Oyibo. Mr. Oyibo, thank you for joining us on the conversation.
Good morning and you're welcome.
Good morning. Sir, can you tell us exactly why your association is opposed to NAFDAC's drive to end the production and distribution of alcoholic beverages in sachets and PET bottles?
Yeah, thank you very much. Honestly, there's this popular saying that if you cannot impact my life positively, then leave it with it. You can agree with me that successive government find it difficult to create jobs. The little ones that are available that people are engaged, they are about taking them away. And when that happens, you know the wider implication. That is to say, thousands of people will be out of jobs. It will end there. Those who are also dependent on the workers are affected. And so when they came up with this issue of banning the sachets and the with definitive excuses that first, it is easily accessible by underage, and secondly, that the empty sachet litter the streets, thereby making the environment polluted. Now, if we are to go by underage, the institution that is in charge of the distillery sector, I think their name is DBAN, has committed huge sums of money, in promoting this crusade of not wanting to sell these products to underage. You see it all over the places in jingles to say, do not sell to underage. They also say to the adults, drink responsibly. And so this is the message, just like what you have in the tobacco sector, where they say smokers are likely to die young. This information has been passed to address the concerns, okay, the government. Now, when they now come to say, oh, these are the reasons why they ban it, to us, it is not a genuine reason. Because we have all the time, promote this crusade of wanting to at least move the product away from the kids. And if you are adult, you should drink responsibly. Now, let us talk of the issue of pollution. Pollution in the Western world, when you go to Europe, you see that the environment is it that they are not using this kind of packages in their products? The answer is no, they use. But the body responsible for environment take charge of these things. Okay? Every bus station, you have trash bins where you can drop them, and then agencies in charge of environment can quickly come.
Right, Mr.
And it doesn't end there.
Mr. Oyibo, just a moment. Now, NAFDAC is saying that since January 2022, they stopped the registration of alcoholic beverages in sachet and small volume PET bottles. Now, the specific argument here is that the registration has stopped over a year ago, and they are simply enforcing an agreement that was reached between NAFDAC and the Association of Food, Beverages and Tobacco Employment.
It has been registered before now. We are not registering a product of pack size.
Well, at the same time, there's a 2018 conversation that happened between NAFDAC and I reckon your association regarding the production of alcohol in these small sachets and small bottles. Is that correct? Okay. Is there such an agreement?
An agreement?
Yes.
That is not my knowledge.
Right.
That is not my knowledge. Yes.
So, NAFDAC, you're saying that if NAFDAC goes ahead with their plan to phase these packagings of alcoholic drinks out, there will be a lot of job losses, and you've pegged that figure at 500,000 Nigerians.
Even more than 10 million Nigerians will be affected, direct and indirect. Direct and indirect, over 10 will be affected.
Now, Mr.
Okay, and that is our concern.
Right.
When a government that is not providing jobs for the teeming populace, all of a sudden just wake up to say the ones that are available, they are taking it out.
Well, Mr. Oyibo, if it's arguable that NAFDAC is not saying don't sell alcoholic drinks. They are simply saying don't sell it in this packaging. So the fight is not against people.
Affordability is key. Okay? If you remember, it was Tomasedo who started a sachet of powdered milk. Okay? In small pack sizes. It is because of affordability. The economy today does not even support people to buy the bigger package. So we have to resort to packaging them in small pack sizes that they can easily afford. So if you now say, okay, go and be producing the big bottles, how many are we going to sell?
Sir, was there any agreement with NAFDAC for a repackaging in, as you call it, the affordable packages?
That, of course, is also not to my knowledge. But, of course, if there was an agreement to say they should not package, I don't think the companies will go ahead to repackage. I doubt. Because it is still NAFDAC that will give approval.
Right.
So having given that approval, the companies can go ahead to repack. And that is why we have been selling it for over how many years now? I can't even recall.
So, Mr. Oyibo, just before we end this conversation, because we're fast running out of time, your association has already held a peaceful protest in Lagos. What has been the response of NAFDAC to your statements and your demands?
Yes, because we're also going to carry an hour here in Abuja this morning. Okay? But that of yesterday, I think the attention was drawn. They attended to our members who protested to the office and then promised that they will get back maybe in the next 3 days.
Right.
So we are waiting for them. By the time we wait and they didn't get back to us, I think we'll be compelled to carry another level of protest.
Well, Mr. Oyibo, thank you very much for speaking with us this morning. It is our intention to hear the other side of the conversation as we have contacted NAFDAC, that is the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control, to hear their side of the conversation. And we will bring it to you right here on your Beyond the News station, Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
Welcome back into the conversations. You're still on to Now Breakfast right here on Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. My name is Stephen Imediegu and this is The Interview. The state of the economy in Nigeria has dominated conversations across every strata of Nigerian society. We've witnessed long queues at some petrol stations, heartbreaking scenes at markets where people cry out about their inability to afford the goods and services they desire. But one thing is clear, things are difficult. Inflation figures were placed at a record high 28.92% in December of 2023, and these figures are most visible in the cost of living, specifically the upward climb of staples, with something as commonplace as a single egg being sold for 150 naira per egg and 3,600 naira for a crate of eggs. On the interview this morning, we examine the current economic realities of Nigeria, and we speak with economist Mukhtar Mohammed to properly understand where we are, how we got here, and perhaps find a way forward. Mr. Mohammed, good morning and thank you for joining us on the conversation.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
To start with, the economy in Nigeria is something that has become very familiar to almost every Nigerian, if not in understanding what the figures, the policies and all of that mean, but in understanding the reality that it is expensive to buy food. It's becoming very expensive to move around. Where do we stand right now as far as Nigeria's entire economic picture is concerned?
Wow. When you talk about our economic future, it's depending on our policies and our individual grief for pleasure. Talk of policy, I'm talking about what the government is doing and what they ought to do, and if they are really doing it the way they ought to do it. That is one. Then when you talk about our pleasure, then you look at our snack for wanting foreign goods into our economy, our likeness for overseas goods than having our own local products. So that is where our economy is at the moment, and that is telling on everybody. I can say that it is affecting every aspect of the life of both the rich, the poor, and the very poor and the very rich. And so it's a policy that has been going on for a very long time, and the damaging effect is being felt now. I always say it is like somebody that needs surgery 10 years ago and he decided not to do it and he did it 10 years after. The pain will be more than if he had done it 10 years ago when his immune system was still very strong and he was younger. So that's the same thing that is happening in the Nigerian economy now. Some of the decisions that have been taken now are decisions that would have been taken 10 years ago when the economy was not in such a difficult stage and the world economy was stable, and then would have been able to take some of the decisions and would have seen the result now that the world economy was going through some turbulence. We've done it before, would have been able to do it again, but again, the political will was not there, and then we played politics and economy. The same people that are in government now were those that stood against policies that would have grown them because of their own political gain at that time. So, some that rolling stone fear to fall. So when you roll the stone, you never know who the stone is going to fall to. I think that is what has happened to Nigeria at the moment.
Well, to touch on this very briefly, I remember a few years ago when the conversation around removing fuel subsidies first came to light. The removal of fuel subsidies is something that this current administration, led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has done. But it was a conversation for a few years ago when President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan was president of Nigeria. And as you've pointed out, those who are in power today opposed this decision. You've also pointed out that, some of these decisions should have been taken years ago, but we now find ourselves doing it today. So my question is this: with successive administrations consistently blaming economic hardships on the past administrations, is this a trend that will lead us anywhere, or should our focus be instead on, I don't know, perhaps communicating to the people who are facing the economic hardships of these steps that will need to be taken to arrive at whatever economic El Dorado is being seen by the leaders?
Okay, when you talk about communication, I think you should give it to this current administration. They've been communicating to Nigerians about some of the challenges that the economy is going through and how they are tackling it. But like I always say, talk is cheap. You can say this is what you are doing. If you don't come up with a result, nobody will believe what you are doing is working. So for now, they are saying what they are doing, but we are not seeing the result because the hardship is still there. In as much as I believe in some of the policy that they have done, I still believe that implementation of those policy was not with a human face in terms of the way they went about it, without looking at some of the logistics how to deal with this. So that is that. But in terms of communication, they have been, but we didn't get here overnight. We won't get out of here overnight. Like I say, it's been a time that we've been going, and like you rightly pointed, that subsequent administration has blamed the other administration, especially when it's from a different political party. Why we are not seeing the blame game now is because it was from an APC government to an APC government. And I can tell you that the worst administration we have economically was the last 8 years of President Muhammadu Buhari. Orthodox economic policy that made the economic lead in terms of borrowing. That was the administration that borrowed about 77% of Nigerian debt at this time now. So all those challenges are there for us to deal with. And so it's not they're communicating, but it's going beyond communication. You have to make sure that people see the impact of your talk. If you say the economy, and if you say we are doing the right thing, and the minister says that for the first time, the economy is in the right direction. For me, the only right direction that is heading to is that the 3 tiers of government are getting more funds, but the people are suffering more because the 3 tiers of government are not even using those funds to develop the economy. They are not looking at social investment. They are not looking at food security. Even if the president have called a meeting, it doesn't have to take people protesting for you to know that food security is key to national security. So you could say all the right thing. You could be doing all the right communication, be getting all the right funds. If those funds are not channeled to help the downtrodden, then your economy survival is in danger.
You talk about this administration communicating, what's going on and what it's doing, but I'm finding it hard to agree with you on that point, because we have seen statements around the administration admitting that it has taken tough economic decisions, but they will pay off in the long run. I don't think we've seen as such a detailed plan to say, okay, we've taken out fuel subsidy. Now that we've taken it out, we expect the prices of XYZ to rise. They will stay at a high for XYZ amount of time, and then we will see it drop at Y point and stabilize at so and so point. So I haven't seen a detailed explanation from this administration regarding what effect its economic policies will have on Nigerians. And I dare say that not a lot of Nigerians understand the economic policies of this particular administration. I wonder, Mr. Mohammed, if you can address one or two of these economic policies and help us understand what they will do for Nigeria in the, if we want, the best case scenario, which is what we're looking at now.
When I mean communication, they tell you this is what we have done. Now, what they have done is not in their hands to tell you the time, but they've told you in the near term this is what will happen, and in the future, this is what will happen. Let me take, for example, the removal of fuel subsidy. The removal of fuel subsidy, like I said, has created more capital or more financing for the 3 tiers of government. The highest they've ever had, they had about 3.3 trillion was shared by the 3 tiers of government recently. We've never had it so good. When this administration came into power, they shared about 1 point something trillion. Remember, we are coming from an era where they have zero allocation because of the continual payment of fuel subsidy. That is one. And two, when you talk about the floating of the naira, its floating will help drive investors into the Nigerian market in the long run. But in the short term, we are not seeing that because of volatility. When you talk about, you have to tell us when we do this, this will happen, this will happen, this will happen. No, it doesn't work like that, because some of the policy that you are driving are towards market forces determining it. The market forces are the key driver of capitalism, and that we will talk about demand and supply. So it has, you can come up with a policy. The market forces are the ones who drive it, demand and supply are the ones to bring it down. I'll give an example in the area of subsidy removal. We finally begin to see that we are going to see a lot of private refinery coming up. We've been saying it before, but now I think it might work. You've seen already Dangote refineries on stream, even if we have not started getting the product into the market. Hopefully we should do that before the end of the first quarter. You see Bua also building a refinery in Akwa Ibom State close to the source of crude oil. So what is that the price of crude oil in Akwa Ibom will be cheaper than the price of crude oil in Lagos because of distance transfer. The price of crude oil in Lagos, product in Akwa Ibom will be cheaper than in Lagos, and the price of refined petroleum product in Lagos will be cheaper than Ibadan because Dangote refinery is located in Lagos. So we'll see that you see direct and indirect jobs comes into play. So those are part of the policy decisions that have been created that will create jobs. But in the short term, you could see those policies not having human faces because of the hardship that this will come up with. And again, when you look at this administration, you've seen that they've come up with policies openly, but behind the scene, you tend to want to disagree with some of the things they are saying. So that is where I have the challenge, and that's what I call sincerity of purpose should come to play. If you are paying subsidy on refined petroleum because the price of crude has gone up, let us know. Or is it that you had some reserve that those are what they're using till date? So those are part of the challenges. So if you want to create that investors to come into your market, then you have to be open and transparent. So, but again, you have to manage the challenge, especially when you have high inflationary pressure. I think that's their greatest worry. But to see the policies are not going to, they are going to create jobs, one. Those policies are going to open up our economy for new products. Those policies to drive down the cost of goods and services. Yesterday, the CBN governor was saying that it will come to 21%. World Bank have said that we'll do 23%. And if you look at from a height of almost 31% to 24% or 21%, it's huge. And so, but that will not happen immediately. We are beginning to see liquidity go into the foreign exchange market. The highest in 22 months, about $800 million. But again, you didn't see the price drastically come down because there's a lot of backlog. And as they continue to inject liquidity into the market to pay off backlog, then pay off some of these, then you see the exchange rate begin to go down, and then it will stabilize. At the time stability comes, then you attract foreign investors into your market. They come in with their efforts. That will create long-lasting stability. And again, once you are able to drive an homegrown sector of your economy that is largely driven. Now, what is that homegrown sector of your economy that is largely driven? All economic activities in Nigeria it's surrounded around fuel movement. So if you now the cost of refined petroleum products because you are producing it at home now, then you don't have to think of using your FX to import refined petroleum products. that will boost your reserve, and
Right.
that also
So-
will increase liquidity.
I apologize for interrupting you there, and that's I'm doing this because you've touched on petroleum for about the second time in your answer. You mentioned that this administration promised us refineries. We've seen one of them come up, the Dangote refinery in Lagos. They also talked about the Port Harcourt refinery coming online or being functional in December of 2023. We saw news to that effect. But there have been a few, if you like, hiccups in all of this. One of which is the fact that the Dangote refinery is openly importing crude from the US. Now, in doing that, we're going to be spending foreign exchange, which has been in short supply, as we've seen in recent times. We've also seen that it will take a while before the Dangote refinery can come out to say, look, we've got refined crude products for sale, and here it is, Nigeria. Now, with this in mind, have we put the cart before the horse in setting up refineries and not ensuring that we have enough supply to meet the demand that we are creating?
For me, it's a surprise that we'll see that we don't have enough crude to meet the demand of Dangote refinery. Remember that Dangote refinery is one of the largest petroleum refinery in the world. And I think what Dangote is doing, NNPC have given Dangote about 6 million liters of crude oil, crude to make sure that they start production, which is in what engineers will tell that the pre-production mode, mechanical mode. So most of all this are being going through the processes, and those processes might last up to 3 months before you start having this product in the market. That's what I said, that before the end of the first quarter we'll start having it. Now, Dangote is importing crude outside the shore of this country, bringing this crude into the country. I think it gets towards not having short supply of commitment to international committee to supply crude, and we've not been able to meet our own quota of the supply of this crude oil because of oil theft and other insecurity in Niger Delta. So we are trying to meet that, and I think that is what is responsible for Dangote saying, you know what, instead of waiting and there come a point whereby they are not able to meet production in terms of giving enough crude for production, that will also cause a systematic problem, because at that time all the companies in Nigeria may have been depending on refined petroleum crude, and not only in Nigeria, in Africa, and you are not able to meet it. That will be bad for your business. So I think that's why they are trying to have a backup plan. I'm surprised that Dangote is going as far as the United States, but I was made to understand that because of the cheap nature of that crude, comparable even in terms of the Nigerian crude that we have here, in terms of refining it, the cheap cost that it comes with it. So that is why they are going to always thinking that they will go to a country like Angola. In Ghana, our neighbor here seems to start crude to sell. So, but that for me, bringing it there, and remember that Dangote that is bringing it now is no more the government that is bringing it. So Dangote will have to source for its FX to bring it. I remember Dangote also will be earning FX by exporting refined petroleum products out of the shore of this country. So it's both ways. It will bring it into the Nigerian system. Just like what we see when we see the oil just bringing in dollar liquidity into our system. Very soon we'll have Dangote bringing in dollar liquidity into our system. That will help stabilize our system. So I don't think it will create a, yes, in terms of pricing, there might be a hike in price when you have to bring it from outside the shore of this country. But remember, it's crude, it's not the refined product. Because the challenge we have in Nigeria is that with crude, you just sell up all the crude and you just have one-off money. But with refined petroleum product, by the time you bring in the crude, they will give you various products, gasoline, aviation, diesel, and PMS. So it's not like what we used to have that again when we are importing. We import PMS, but we have exported crude. Through our crude, we export PMS separately. We import gas diesel separately. We import fertilizer. But all these were to look from one product, which is crude. So what you see is that we get crude, Dangote brings it in, and by the time you refine all these products and
Lagos, Nigeria. We apologize for the break in our communication or our connection with Mr. Mukhtar Mohammed. He's our guest this morning on the interview, and we were speaking about Nigeria's current economic realities, the economic policies of this administration, and trying to find the light in a dark tunnel that has seen Nigerians consistently lament the inability of the money in one's hand to buy things that one needs, especially food. You're still listening to Radio Now 95.3 FM Lagos. It appears that we will not be able to reconnect with Mr. Mohammed this morning, but he has given us a picture of what's going on. We would have liked to put the question as to what to expect if the policies of Nigeria are followed through to the end, as well as understanding what the Central Bank of Nigeria will be doing to beat down inflation figures to 21%. But that's how far we can take the interview this morning on Radio Now 95.3 FM. We ask, as always, that you stay tuned to us. Coming up in a few short moments is Community Watch right here on your Beyond the News station.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM.